So today we are going to be discussing about excretion, okay? Basically the excretion in the human beings, but first of all, I'm going to be discussing a little bit about excretion. So, it is one of the distinctive feature in the living organism, their excretion path, their excretion action, okay? So basically, what do you mean by when you hear the word excretion? It is basically removal. And what do you think the removal of will be? Okay, the removal of unwanted substances. Okay, any unwanted substances which is not required by the body, removal is referred to as the excretion. Okay, excretion is the removal of unwanted substances. They can be metabolic waste, they can be anything that is not required by the body, for example extra water in the body or something like that. Anything like that is referred to as the unwanted substances which the body do not require. So body, for the maintaining of homeostasis, and they remove those unwanted substances. We know about homeostasis. It is basically the maintenance of nearly constant environment, body environment. Okay, basically that is what homeostasis refers to. Okay, so excretion has a very important role in maintenance of the homeostasis, because those unwanted substances, if they are left behind in the body, they can disturb the homeostasis of the body, because there is a certain level of water in the body, there are certain levels of electrolytes in the body. If that level, these extra water and the electrolytes are left in the body, they can cause, and the disturbance on the homeostasis thus cause different issues in the body. Okay, like electrolyte imbalance can cause a lot of things like cramps and stuff like that. Okay, so that electrolyte balance, for example, such that the homeostasis, okay, that is very important to be maintained, and that one of its important feature is the excretion, through which those unwanted substances are being removed by the body. All right, so now let's discuss about the excretion in the human body. Okay, like every other human being, like every other animals, the excretory pathway of the there's a certain organ system present in the animal, in the humans, which is referred to as the human excretory system. Okay, that basically consists of what I'm going to be referring to right now is what they are consisting of. The excretory system of the humans consists of following structures. Okay, excretory system of the humans consists of following structures. They have 2 kidneys. They have 2 ureters, 1 urinary bladder, and 1 urethra. Okay, so 1 urinary bladder, 1 urethra, 2 kidneys, 2 ureters are the presence of the human excretory system, consist of these structures in it. Okay, I'm going to be explaining to you with the help of a very rough diagram how this basically works. So you have 2 bean-shaped kidneys present at the very sides of your back. Okay, a little bit above. Okay, the very approximately a little bit below the center of the back is the line of the kidneys. Okay, from the kidneys originate the ureters. Okay, 2 ureters originate from there, and they drain into the urinary bladder, and the urinary bladder lie in the lower part of your abdomen. Okay, at your abdominal region, at the lower part is the lining of the urinary bladder. And that urinary bladder then drains into or through gets the urine out through urethra. So you have 2 kidneys, you have 2 ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. This is basically through which the urine is being excreted out. Okay, so you have this as your excretory system of the human beings. Okay, this is one of it. So now let's talk about one of its main structures that is referred to as the kidneys, okay? That is the one that is mainly involved in the excretion process. What has to be removed, what is not to be removed, selecting all that is the function of the kidney, okay? So we're going to be discussing kidney in very much detail. Or remember this thing, along with the urinary excretion, we also have fecal excretion in the human beings, which is basically those substances of the food which cannot be absorbed, which is not being utilized by the body, they're just being excreted out. But this is the proper excretory system of the human beings, the one that is maintaining it, the one which is in contact with your blood, okay? That is checking up your blood if anything is higher, anything is lower, while that one is just removing anything that was not being absorbed, okay? So this one is the main one. Let's discuss about it in the kidneys, okay? Now let's discuss kidneys in a very much in detail. So in the kidneys, first of all, in the structure, we're going to discuss the structure of the kidney first of all. So the outer part of the kidney is referred to as the cortex. Okay, what is it referred to as? The cortex region. And the inner part is referred to as the medullary region, okay? So the outer part of the kidney is referred to as the cortex. The inner part is referred to as the medulla, okay? So you have in this region is the presence of your renal pyramids. These are referred to, these pyramid-like structures are referred to as renal pyramids. Renal pyramids. They're referred to as renal pyramids. In these renal pyramids are the ones, the functional part of which lies, which basically consist of millions of nephrons, which I'm going to be discussing in a little bit. The functional part of the kidneys, which is referred to a nephron, lies in the renal pyramids, okay? Next, they open up into this pelvis region, renal pelvis region, okay? That whatever waste product or urine was being produced, I told you, will be produced in these renal pyramids. So this is basically the functional part. Through them, when the urine is being produced, they enter into this renal pelvis region. Remember, this region is referred to as the hilus, okay? This indented region of the kidney is referred to as hilus of the kidney. This is renal pelvis region, and then this opens up into this, what we had referred to before is referred to as ureters, okay? This is referred to as the ureters. Now, what is this? This is renal vein, and the next one, with the red one, is referred to as the renal artery, okay? This is what will be carrying the blood and will be getting purified with, okay? Renal artery, renal veins. This is all about it, okay? Now let's discuss, before I go into the detail of how it functions out, you need to remember this thing. Next, I'll be moving on towards more other things about it, how basically this, the vascular system of the kidneys work, okay? So you have the cortex region. First, you need to know the basic important things, and you have the medullary region. You have renal pyramids, which mostly line the medulla, but some of its part also move towards the cortex, which is referred to as the juxtamedullary nephrons. Okay, those nephrons, which the part of the nephrons which moves towards the between the cortical region is referred to as the juxtamedullary nephrons. Okay, nephrons I'm going to discuss in detail later on. Remember that, but they lie, millions of them lie in this renal pyramidal region in the kidneys. Okay, millions of them nephrons are present, which is the functional part of the kidney. Remember that, nephron, functional part of the kidney, the one that is producing the urine, and we're going to be discussing this functional part in a little bit. All right, moving on, we have renal veins, renal artery, ureters, pelvic region, and renal hilus region. Further on, I'm going to be discussing with you about the vascular system. As I already told you, we have to discuss that too. So let's do that. So you have arteries, which are carrying the blood, oxygenated blood in it. It is going to divide into arterioles, okay? And those arterioles are then further going to divide into capillaries. And those capillaries are then going to be dividing into venules. And those venules are then further going to divide into veins, okay? These arteries are going to be carrying the oxygenated blood for the kidney. We remember this thing. Oxygenated blood, oxygen required for the respiration, and the respiration is going to produce the energy. So organs and tissue require the oxygenated blood for their energy, because without energy they can't function. This artery is going to carry the oxygenated blood that will be required by the kidneys for their functioning. They're going to divide into arterioles, they're going to divide into capillaries. Okay, capillaries are basically their single cell endothelium kind of structure vessels from which easily these things can pass through and out. This is the exchanging part through which the exchange basically happens. And they further divide into the together form the venues, and then they form the veins. Okay, they are just when the renal or the kidneys basically utilized the oxygen, whatever oxygen they required was being taken up by them. The rest, the blood have now become what? They have become deoxygenated blood, and that is going to deoxygenated blood is being carried by veins, which are referred to as renal veins in case of the kidneys, which is going to carry the deoxygenated blood of the kidneys towards the inferior vena cava, which basically drains the lower part of the body. Okay, and that inferior vena cava is going to then further on take the blood to the heart, and the heart is going to take into the lungs. From the lungs the blood is going to come back to the heart, and from the heart to back to the body. The blood will be carried back to the body and will be carried back through the arteries into the kidneys. Okay, when they require it, they're going to divide throughout the body, which requires most, they're going to be dividing that. All right. So remember this system, because through this I'm going to be explaining a little bit about the nephrons. Okay, so arteries, we have arterioles, the capillaries, the venules, and the veins. Moving on towards the nephrons. Okay, so nephrons, very, very important part. You need to remember this thing. This is the functional part of the kidney. So this is basically the thing that you should be concerned about. Okay, so the nephrons basically consist of those renal arteries and renal veins. Renal arteries are going to be forming the tuft of capillaries referred to as the glomerulus. Okay, this is referred to as the glomerulus region. Around that glomerulus region is going to be the presence of the cup-shaped structure called as the Bowman's capsule. What is it called? It is called as the Bowman's capsule. Okay, this is Bowman's capsule region, which I draw line as. And this is the Bowman's capsular region. This Bowman's capsular region is then moving on towards the proximal convoluted tubule. What is it moving towards? The proximal convoluted tubule. And that proximal convoluted tubule further on is going to move towards the loop of Henle. Okay, this loop of Henle consists of the descending loop of Henle, and there is an ascending loop of Henle. Okay, there is a descending one and there is an ascending one. I'm going to label this in a little bit, don't panic. This then drains into the distal convoluted tubule, and this distal convoluted tubule then moves it to the collecting ducts. Okay, collecting tubule, the urine will be moving towards that. That excretory products will be moving towards that. So now let's label it up. This is the glomerulus region, which basically consists of the tuft of capillaries. And I told you at the very beginning, these capillaries are the region where the exchange basically happens. The blood that carries the blood, and from the blood all the particles, all those unwanted substances are going to be moving through easily. Okay, that is why I need capillaries in this glomerulus region, because these other regions, through them the unwanted substances cannot move out of the blood. Okay, this is the glomerulus region. This is the Bowman's capsule. Okay, this is the Bowman's capsule. This is the PCT, which is referred to as the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the descending loop of Henle. Okay, it is moving down, so descending loop of Henle. And this is moving up. This is referred to as the ascending loop of Henle. What is it referred to as? The ascending loop of Henle. This is the DCT, or distal convoluted tubule. Remember this thing, proximal refers to before, distal refers to after. So don't confuse and write after Bowman's capsule distal convoluted tubule. That's completely wrong. Remember, in the biological terminologies, proximal is before, means that comes first, and the distal is the after. Okay, and next we have the collecting tubule, which will be collecting all the urine that has been produced. Okay, till here any issues? Okay, moving on further. Okay, so this glomerulus, what does it consist of? This glomerulus consists of tuft of capillaries, and already told you this tuft of capillaries is very thin. Okay, so remember this one thing, this capillaries through which there is just one single cell thick, this Bowman's capsule, one single cell thick. The blood will be moving through this. This is the basically the capillary region I'm explaining right now. Through the capillary region, from this blood, the unwanted substances is going to move, all the substances. Okay, approximately everything is going to move towards the Bowman's capsule region. Okay, everything is going to move there, except proteins, except the blood cells. Okay, except those, approximately everything moves out of the blood into the Bowman's capsule. This is referred to as the glomerular filtrate. What is it referred to as? Glomerular filtrate. Except these two things, because proteins are larger in structure, they're larger in structure, they can not cross this barrier. Okay, so have things, unwanted substances, everything, approximately water, electrolytes, different metabolic waste, they have entered into the Bowman's capsule, and this is referred to as the glomerular filtrate. What is it referred to as? This is referred to as the glomerular filtrate. Now this glomerular filtrate which have accumulated in the, okay, this is not red blood is moving in this region. Okay, this glomerular filtrate that is accumulated in the Bowman's capsule is then going to pass on to the PCT. Remember, about 90%, okay, but 70 to 90% of the reabsorption is going to take place in the PCT. That water have to be reabsorbed, NaCl have to be reabsorbed, bicarbonates, different stuff which is being required by the body. Approximately everything, about 90 to 70%, 70 to 90% is going to be reabsorbed in the PCT. Okay, from the PCT next comes the descending loop of Henle, and then we have the ascending loop of Henle. In the descending and ascending loop of Henle is the reabsorption of the salts and the reabsorption of the water taking place. Okay, from the descending will be the reabsorption of the water, from the ascending will be the reabsorption of the NaCl happening. Okay, so from this will be reabsorption of water, and from this there will be reabsorption of the salt. This is going side by side with each other. Okay, if the from here there's the NaCl reabsorption, so there's the water is being accumulated here. Once the NaCl move out, right before after it, the so water is also going to move out. Okay, they're going side by side through osmosis and diffusion, they're moving out. Moving on further towards the DCT, which where further reabsorption of different substances, potassium and different substances is going to take place. Next we have the collecting tubule, where the a little bit of urea and different water basically is going to be reabsorbed, and the rest of it will be forming the urine. Okay, whatever reabsorption, a little bit of reabsorption do take place here, but the whatever doesn't haven't been reabsorbed is now going to be forming the urine. So there's the water reabsorption and there is the NaCl reabsorption taking place. Okay, till here any issues? So you have glomerulus, from where the unwanted substances moved out of the glomerulus, or most of the substances move out of the blood into the Bowman's capsule, forming the glomerular filtrate. From glomerular filtrate, reabsorption took place, and the substances at the end we had urine formation. But there is another thing that is happening along the pathway, and that is the secretion. Okay, so there are certain substances that have to be removed but were not being secreted by the blood. There was some issue, they're going to be getting secreted into the blood and will be removed, like urea. Okay, they're going to be entering in here and they're going to be excreted out. Okay, so those are going to be entering into these regions, and they're going to be secreted into the nephronic region, and they will be getting excreted. Okay, so this is the filtration region, this is the reabsorption and the secretion region of the nephrons. All right, so this is what it is. And now remember this, in the descending loop of Henle there's reabsorption of water and there's the reabsorption of the NaCl. Okay, so there in the nephron, one fun fact I want to tell you about a little bit, because most of the people are confused right now, because water is moving out first while NaCl is moving out late. Most people are messed up right now. So I'm going to be explaining to you that what happens basically, what happens is that in the kidneys the filtrate is moving in this direction, but along with them there is the vasa recta region which is carrying the blood. It is forming a loop around this loop of Henle, and in that the blood is moving in this direction. So in the loop of Henle it is moving in this direction, while in the vasa recta, which is basically the capillaries around this region, okay, this blood carrying region, blood vessels region. Okay, so this is moving in this direction, this is moving in this direction. So when it is moving in this direction, first it is going to take up the NaCl. When it takes up the NaCl, the blood is going to take up that, reabsorb that NaCl. When it moves towards this region, now the blood have more NaCl, it will become hypertonic. The water will see that there is more NaCl solute inside the vasa recta. It will move out of the loop of Henle into the vasa recta through osmosis. Okay, now you get to know why water is getting reabsorbed first and while NaCl is getting reabsorbed later. Okay, that is the reason, because this vasa recta, their direction is opposite to each other, so they are the region that is going to reabsorb them. So their direction matters right now. Okay, so this is about nephron. Now the urine that is being formed, what is going to happen to that? That urine is going to move into these regions. They're going to be entering into the renal pelvis region. They're going to collect right here. They then first move on to ureter. From ureter, they're going to be passed on to the urinary bladder. In the urinary bladder, they can be stored. Okay, the urinary bladder can stretch up and can store the urine until it is under voluntary control. Okay, it is under voluntary control. So whenever the pressure starts to build up, and when the pressure becomes either you release it, or if it's not, pressure becomes so uncomfortable that you have to release it. Okay, so that urination will be happening then. Okay, so this is what happens. You now know what kidneys does, what ureter and urinary bladder, and then urethra. Now I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the renal failure and the renal stones. Let's first discuss about renal stones. So renal stones is basically the accumulation of a certain calcium, or for example, most of the people, what happens is there is calcium accumulating, and that accumulation results in the blockage in that pathway. Okay, different substances starts to accumulate, and that causes the blockage. For example, uric acid also can cause the renal stones. They start to accumulate and they cause blockage. They can either be in the ureter, they can either be in the urethra, they can either be in the kidney. So whatever the region is, it is very painful. So for this, what doctors suggest you is take a lot of fluid. Okay, if the size of the stone is smaller, by taking the fluid it can be easily passed through. But if the small stone is very large in size and it is causing a lot of blockage, then lithotripsy. Okay, what is it? Lithotripsy is done, which is basically laser. Okay, through laser, what happens? The breakdown of the stones is taking place, and that stone, when break down, it can be easily passed through by taking water. It can easily pass through the urethra. Okay, and it can be removed by the body. There is another method. The tube is being fixed, and the tube basically moves it through. But there are different ways. This is the one that is being now used for big stones, and for smaller stones, the water is being utilized. All right, now we have talked about the stones. Now let's move on towards renal failure. Renal failure can be of different reasons, like in heart patients, congestive heart failure cases, and different cases can happen that your nephrons are not working properly, or there's some issues in the kidneys. The blood from the heart is causing issues towards you. That is why I'm saying that heart issues can cause the renal failure, because the blood from the kidneys is coming from there. Okay, so that is going to come and they can cause the renal failure, means the kidneys are not functioning. They aren't able to excrete, they're not able to produce the urine. So what will happen? What with those unwanted substances that I told you at the very beginning, they will start to accumulate, and I told you that they will disturb what? Your homeostasis. Okay, your balance will be affected, and that can affect your body. So there's different methods like dialysis. Okay, there's dialysis done first. There's peritoneal dialysis, where the tube is inserted into the peritoneal cavity present in your abdomen, and from there the blood is being cleansed. Or there is hemodialysis, where the blood is being passed through a dialyzer tank, an artificial kidney, and then the blood is being cleaned. And there is another method, and that is basically renal transplant or kidney transplant. For that, basically you have to check each and everything, because transplant rejection happen and that can kill a person. So each and every component of that donor and the recipient are checked up, and if they match for 15 years to 10 to 15 years, the kidneys can be work out. Okay, those transplanted kidney can work out for the recipient. But after that, another kidney transplant will be done, but before that, dialysis is done. So this is all about excretion, and we all talk about the nephrons and the renal kidneys and all the structure of the excretory system in the humans, and we also discuss the different issues that can happen in the excretory system. Here we are done.